second Culture Catch-Up Public History Talk of 2025. And I think for us, we're very, very excited to be able to bring to life this edition. I think we have two special guests, which is very unique for us. Normally, we tend to only have one guest. And so I think we're very excited to have our two guests with us today. So yeah, I think I will begin with the introduction. And of course, with the theme of today's conversation being Maarifaa, honoring the wisdom and resilience of communities, we are honored to have two phenomenal guests whose work for and within their communities highlights the importance of innovation, collaboration, and persistence. We are grateful that they honored our invite. And in our time together today, we hope to explore the genesis of their work, how they navigate the complexities of building and sustaining grassroots cultural organizations, and how their work centers and caters to the needs of their communities. The conversation we'll have today is also framed within the context of our ongoing Skills for Culture program, which was where we first engaged with the work of both of our guests. Skills for Culture, now in its fourth phase, seeks to increase visibility, ownership, accessibility, inclusivity, and transmission of cultural heritage. And now to introduce our guests and their respective organizations for today. For our first guest, we have Julius Mutuku, the founder of the Akamba Cultural Center and Museum, ACCM. ACCM is a leading institution dedicated to the preservation, documentation, and promotion of Akamba heritage. It serves as a hub for cultural education, showcasing a rich collection of traditional artifacts, oral histories, and indigenous knowledge. ACCM also plays a crucial role in safeguarding the community's identity through exhibitions, through research, and through community-led initiatives that celebrate and transmit Kamba cultural heritage to future generations. So karibu sana, Mr. Julius Mutuku.
Well, thank you for that introduction. I almost thought it was not me, that's too much. But I'm glad. So my name is Mutuku Wamoindi. I'm the founder and director of the Akamba Cultural Center and Museum.
Yes.
Our main objective, to preserve the tangible, intangible heritage of the Kamba people for the purposes of research, documentation, dissemination, and the use by this generation and the future generations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mutuku. We also have with us a guest today called Stan Kiraga, and he is the founding chairman of the Malindi District Cultural Association, MADCA, which is a cultural organization based in Malindi. MADCA plays a crucial role in preserving Giriama cultural heritage, which includes traditional music, dance, storytelling, and historical artifacts. The organization is known also for its active role in cultural revitalization, research, and advocacy, ensuring that the indigenous knowledge of Kenya's coastal communities is documented and transmitted to future generations. So, karibu sana, Mr. Stan.
Good afternoon. Well, my name is Stan Kiraga. You can call me Kahindi wa Kiraga, which is my indigenous name. I am a co-founder of Malindi District Cultural Association, an organization that was founded to research, document, preserve, and develop culture and cultural activities of the Mijikenda people of Kenya. It was founded in 2003, and our main objective have been to go deep into our cultural realms, document cultural stories, preserve cultural items, knowledge and skills, that are there. And I'm very grateful to be here today. Hello, Mr. Mutuku.
Yes, my colleague, thank you so much. Good afternoon. Thank you.
Good afternoon. We meet again.
Yeah, of course, and we'll meet again in future. Many times.
Definitely. Yes.
Yes, thank you very much to the both of you. I think you have already, in a sense, preempted my first question, which is I think all of us are really keen to know more about the work that it is that you do within the organizations. But I was also really interested in personally wanting to know how you as an individual got into how you came into the culture and heritage space. And what led you to establish both ACCM and MADCA? So I think we'll begin with Mr. Mutuku first. So how did you come into the cultural heritage space? And what led you then to establish ACCM?
Thank you so much. It's a great question. I must say, one, by training, I'm not trained in culture. I only got interested and went on to learn about culture. And when did the bug bite me about culture? 1996, I was a student in Sweden, and I happened to see, I already had interest in culture. Now, when I was there, I saw an advertisement in a local newspaper saying that they are exhibiting artifacts from the Kamba people of Kenya. And being a Kamba, I was a bit shocked that there is an exhibition overseas. Whilst back in the country, I've never seen any exhibition of the Kamba people. And so I did plan to attend, and I organized myself. It was in the Museum of Ethnography in Stockholm, and it was not cheap. As a student, I had to raise money to attend. And really true, I found original Kamba artifacts collected by an ethnographer who was in Kenya in 1925. And that got me thinking, how can we have artifacts being showcased in a foreign country while in our country we don't have anything, and there's a lot of interest in it? And so I decided when I came back that if I get back to my country, I will have to start something. And 1997, I arrived in Kenya after my studies, and I embarked on collecting artifacts. And silently, I started collecting, designating a room in my house for the same, of course, with many attending challenges. And so the bug met me that time in 1996, and I began to collect. And as I collected, I began to do research. And as I traveled with the organization that employed me, I could see many countries had preserved their culture. I've visited museums in South America, in Asia, in Europe, in wherever I went. I always wondered why our people, their Kamba, did not have a museum of their own. So that jolted me into serious action, and I decided to do it. And the collections went on until sometimes around 2012, when I got a piece of land, 12 acres. Of course, I bought with my own money. And 2018, when COVID was declared and we had to work from home, I decided to open, to pitch up a tent and display what I had. And to my utter surprise, so many schools and colleges were interested, and they started coming, and I said, why not charge these people for this service? And I began charging, and I began getting some little funds. And I said, bingo, why can't I not do a museum for this, a permanent museum where we can conserve and preserve these items? And that's how the museum was born. It is now complete. The displays are there. We are almost putting the final touches of the displays. Along the way, I discovered it's a very expensive venture. One, to preserve, to study, to curate, to accession. It's a lot of work. I don't know when I will ever finish, but I'm not giving up. And so for that, then we began, and then we found on top of physical artifacts, we can also do the intangible. because each tangible item comes with a story. That is the intangible. We also discovered music, poetry, stories, riddles, proverbs, and many, many, many other things. I didn't know that our people had so much to offer to the world. And so we are deep in it. We are assisted by, sometimes scholars come, they assist a little bit here and there. The county government comes in, and Africa Digital Heritage, they have done a tremendous job for us there. Last month, they were here training us on digital heritage, which is, of course, is the in thing, and which, of course, is going to be the key that unlocks everything, because everybody is in the digital space. And once we get our work in the digital space, I believe that much of the world, more of the world will come, admire, even assist. Because when I began, it was quite a challenge to get any NGO or anybody who wants to fund culture. In my local area, of course, I was being accused of taking people back to the Stone Age, because what will culture do to you? Well, this is useless. You are going against Christianity. And, Christian fanatics one time gathered to ban my museum, but of course, I was firm, and a lot of other people came to my aid. And so here we are, the Akamba Cultural Center and Museum. We are in Makueni County, 7 kilometers from Nairobi-Mombasa Road, from the town of Emali. And I can tell you the challenges that I began with, many of them are long gone. And we have now seen that the world has begun to appreciate culture. It is because probably they have discovered that there are many issues of culture that can solve the problems that we are seeing in the world today. The problems we are having of social problems, climate change, all that, then there used to be tenets, and there used to be things that the community did that addressed these things, because these things are not new. And so these are some of the things that keep driving me to continue with my crusade of preserving the tangible and intangible heritage of the Kamba people of Eastern Kenya. And because culture belongs to everybody, culture is universal. And if we lose a culture of a people, the whole world has lost, because we don't know what we have lost from that culture. And maybe problems that will come in the future could be addressed by the cultural approaches that these people use. And now this is what keeps driving me. This is my fuel. Thank you.
Thank you so much for walking us through that journey. I think something that we've noticed as we've been in this space is that a lot of times when people begin this work, it's a lifetime. It's not work for a short amount of time. It's a lifetime's worth of work. And so I think we also really enjoyed being in Makueni and learning from you. I think I would also be really keen to hear now from Mr. Kiraga how you came into this space as a cultural practitioner, and also what led you to co-founding MADCA.
Well, for me, it's also a long journey. It's a journey of two people. And we arrived at that point where we thought we have to do something together, but from different angles. Actually, my journey, I think if I go back, it's like my whole life has been linked together. I grew up in just outside Malindi town. That's where I was born and grew up. It's like 5 kilometers from Malindi town. But during the time that I was growing up, it was full because we could we could get so much from our indigenous culture that was still alive. At the same time, being just almost in the town, we got every other cultural thing happening in the major town, the urban culture. So I grew up with both the urban and the rural culture, I would say, together. And I didn't realize at the time that these two things would impact my life so heavily, because just around my neighborhood, there were several people who had been called to Bombers of Kenya to start Bombers of Kenya at the time, and there were major cultural figures. We also had other cultural figures that were around that were making sure that the justice system works, the traditional justice system, and medicine and everything was there. At the same time, I grew up when in the urban culture and in the world, hip hop music was starting. So at that moment, because us being just near the coast, we could get access from new music coming from the US and other areas. So we knew what was happening then, and it was heavy also on the local music scene, on the rumba and lingala music, and in Kilifi we had a music called High Life, which gave birth to groups like Safari Sounds, Mombasa Roots, and others. So we were just there. I was in both sides, but the realization for me came in 1990 when I was in secondary school, and a classmate brought me a tape, a music cassette for Public Enemy. That's a US rap group of the time. And it was very heavy, just the title. It takes a nation of millions to move us back. I mean, the title was so heavy, and if you listen to it, there were a lot of conscious lyrics. People who have been born so far away and still very proud to be African. Yet I'm here in the middle of Africa, and a lot of people around me that we were growing up together weren't very sensitive to the indigenous culture. They call it names, it's backward, and it's unchristian, it's ungodly, and other stuff. So I thought, wow. So that made me to dig deeper. I started listening to music more, the rap conscious lyrics, the reggae conscious lyrics, and I read a lot of conscious books. By 1994, we formed our first rap group, which was based on our indigenous culture. So we played hip hop music using our traditional music instruments, and we called that group Original Blacks. So we started performing. So like Mr. Mutuku, I'm not educated, I would say formally educated in cultural matters, but it came to me. And because it was already born in me, it was easy to locate. And so I pushed on with this journey, started asking questions. In 1998, I was interviewed by two researchers, Italian researchers who are researching about the Mijikenda. And after that, during that time, there was no internet. So a lot of materials you had to travel and actually find it in the museums, in the National Archives, in the libraries of the big institutions in Kenya. That is the University of Nairobi and Kenyatta University. And after talking with these people, when they concluded their research, they gave me all the materials that they had photocopied. So from Cambridge University, from University of Nairobi, from other university libraries. And I started rediscovering myself. Like, I'm reading about these things that I'm supposed to know, but most of them had gaps. And I was trying to fill that gap. My father had died a few years back, and my father was a sort of a historian himself. So I didn't have much time with him. I had started discussions with him, asking questions, but when he died, then I was left with no one to approach. That led me to a distant cousin of mine who is older, and they used to be close with my father. And why they were close was because of the same cultural, historical aspects of our community they used to discuss a lot. So I thought he would give me the answers. And I went to him, and I started asking questions, and it became a ritual. He's a practicing advocate of the High Court. But every evening after work, I would go to him and we will start a discussion and question and question and question. And he had already started his movement because before I went to him, he had started another organization called Together for Culture. But the founding members of this organization were mostly the elites, educational elites. So there was advocates, there was a doctor, there was an architecture, there was two engineers, and after a while, it died down. So when we were asking ourselves, what led to this very beautiful thing to die? And Mr. Morand was telling me, I think I know the reason. The reason is that all of us who are members were not practitioners as such of culture. So we were doing it at an elite level, and it wouldn't work because we didn't know much. Some of us didn't know much and didn't also cherish much. Because we subscribe to the Western ideology. And here we are trying to find our own roots, but with no tangible conviction. So we said, okay, then if we are to do something, and that also we had come from a place where we were going through all the social problems bedeviling our community, and every other problem led to the indigenous culture, because that's where something happened. Something went wrong because that social problem was not there prior. And so we thought the answers, many people would want to form a political organization or an educational, or try to push education, but we thought nothing is being done in this area of culture, and it is where we can find answers. And so in 2003, we decided to form a CBO, or a CBO network of all the cultural groups that were in Malindi District. That's why our name still remains Malindi District Cultural Association. Then it was not divided, yet later on it was redivided into Magarini and Malindi, and then the new constitution came and we became Kilifi County. And also during that time, our activities spread. So it came to us. It came to us from, I would say, from the angle that we can only find solutions in our culture. And because our culture is dying and it is not documented, we need to start doing something. And then we started. And yeah, it wasn't like Mr. Mutuku is saying, it is an expensive venture. But all the same, we knew that we'll get support or get on the way. We're going to grow and we're going to have our roots intact. And we didn't look back. And since then, we can already start seeing the fruits of our labor. Because for us, it is not just collecting and preserving and showcasing, but rather it is about changing attitudes. It is about instilling pride, who we are. And this is so wide. And in the process, you get a lot of opposition. You get stereotyped. You get called names. But we have pushed on for 20 years now. We have pushed on. I think some of the things that we wanted to see, we're starting seeing. Like in 2002, you could never see a learned person or a young person at that dressed in a traditional attire at any given moment. Now it is commonplace that in cultural events like funerals or weddings, these things are seen. And at one point, we even reached, I call it a climax, because in national days, you will see everybody of the leaders, from the governor to was dressed in a traditional attire. Okay, it is a small thing when you want to change mindsets, but it is a big thing in just starting to make people realize who they are. And yes, I thank God for this journey so far.
Yeah, thank you so much for mapping out what this whole trajectory has been. And I really resonate with what you said about how it's not just about collecting and preserving, but also changing the attitudes and instilling pride. And now going back to the organizations themselves, I know for the Akamba Cultural Center and Museum, one of your key pillars is preservation, documentation, and promotion. And I would love you to speak more about what preservation looks like, or how you would define preservation, how you define documentation, and how you define promotion um, within the Akamba Cultural Center and Museum.
Yes, thank you so much. Let's begin by preservation. And we know that in preservation, we have to preserve artifacts and also the way these artifacts were made. That is where the challenge is, because, for example, in the museum, I have a musical instrument called mbeve, which was played by the Kamba people, but nobody knows how to play it. We have made appeals online and we've traveled, we have asked people, and the only guy I'm told who could play died like 10 years ago, and we couldn't find anybody. So this is preservation and how it is done. And we do this because if we lose an item and we know how to do it, we can easily make it from the knowledge that we have collected. We also preserve because stories tend to have impact, and the cultural change tends to have impact when the physical things can be seen and touched. If I'm telling you the Akamba used the Kilumbi drum to play that dance after sacrifice, after Kudemba, which is called Kidembe, then you see the drum, then you see how it was played. That way, then we are able to transport people back to that time. And as Stan said, I think it takes only one person for people to start changing and discovering that there was nothing wrong and there is nothing wrong with culture. As we talk now, we are normally very busy. The same churches that banned drums, because I rescued a few drums from fanatical pastors and other people, are now coming to borrow drums to go and play youth music that has a tinge of culture in it, because they say there's a class where somebody has to play a traditional dance. They have now incorporated that part in the church. And when we began, of course, that music was from the devil, and nobody would dare play such in a church. And so when we see people changing their lifestyles to embrace their culture, then we say our work is getting recognized. Our mission, we are arriving where we anticipated to be. And so that way, the preservation happens like that. Promotion. How do we promote? We have had various occasions. One, we have attended many conferences where we have exhibited the items of Kamba culture. We have spoken in many conferences. We are set to travel to Mombasa. There is a conference coming. We were there during the graduation of the National Defense University, where we talked about the Kamba culture and the defense heritage of the Kamba people. And so that way, through exhibitions, through keeping our social media pages alive, through organizing days like we are looking forward and we are looking for support to organize the Kamba traditional music cultural extravaganza, where we'll have music and the foods. It's something we did 2 years ago, and we are looking forward to do the same, to promote this culture, so that people can see what foods did we eat, and what foods are we eating that are cultural that we can increase, what other foods are forgotten that we can pick up. Then we'll show them our dances, then we'll show them our games, then we'll show them how we did various things, from games to learning to everything. Because if our people do not know the basics of their culture, chances are that they will ignore. And I must say that, of course, our people, a lot of damage was done by introduction of foreign religions, even though it was their own accord, and some of it was forced into people. And I remember the last time, as I did research, I found that people were forced to cut down shrines, to burn drums, to stop planting sorghum and the sugarcane, and to stop having beehives, because it was believed that honey would be used for libation, sugarcane would make traditional beer, and the African sausage tree was also ordered cut down. So there are very few left, because the seeds, they were cut down and burnt, because they believed that these things will make you not go to heaven to sing with angels. And so we have, that is the challenge we have when it comes to promotion, where we want to promote our culture. Because when you look at the culture, it was something that was systematic, something that people took time to establish. Because, for example, here in Akamba Cultural Center, we are licensed to brew the traditional wine called Kalovo. And that Kalovo is so good because it is both entertains and it is medicinal. And for that matter, our grandfathers partook of that for many ages, and they lived to be over 100 years. My father, who gave me the formula, is now 101. Last week, we were celebrating his 101 birthday. And as I speak now, I can still see him moving around in the shamba, trying to weed, and he's still very strong. And so maybe there are things we lost that could be the solution to what we are suffering from today, the lifestyle diseases and all that. And that's why it gives me a lot of power to keep and to want to preserve, disseminate, and promote the culture, because people need to be told the importance of their culture. But you cannot tell them until you research which medicine was used for this. When this problem came, what did people do? Because we did not start living when Christianity came. We were alive. We had kingdoms. We had medicines. We had social structures. We had everything. But of course, sorry to say this, out of somebody's, I don't know, desire to achieve what, these structures are to be destroyed and others introduced. And you know, I think we were weak in record keeping, and that's why we were caught off guard. And that's why I want to be very serious in keeping records. Because if you don't keep records and another person comes and records, you become what that person tells you you are, because you have no records. He tells you this one, no. What is recorded is the right one. And because probably you don't have your own Bible, then this is the Bible and forget about all these other things. This is what to do. But we all know now that every culture is as important as the other one. Every tribe in the world, every culture in the world is important, because sometimes culture evolves out of context. Where do you find yourself? Then from there, you research on medicine, which herbs can cure. If you live in a place with a lot of snake bites, chances are that you will discover some herbs that can cure snake bites. If you live in a place prone to drought, chances are that you will discover some foods that can withstand drought and that can sustain you. You'll also discover how to look for water. And so this knowledge cannot be confused. This knowledge is just the same as a science, because it took many years of observation, for example, to say that the African sausage tree, the Kigelia africana, can be used as a base to old bacteria to do fermentation to make Kamba wine Kalovo. That took years. Imagine throwing that away and saying, no, this one, we don't need this. We are in the new era of this and that. So this is then how it goes. Promotion, I think I touched on that, but much of the promotion is we talk about it through the media, we present, we showcase, and we live by it. 2 months ago, I was on television conferring eldership, making one of our local musicians Akamba elder. This is something that could never have been imagined. And from there, many people began congratulating and wondering, you mean we had such a rich culture, the things we had you talk about, you mean these are our things? And we find it's much of it is ignorance, that people don't know what their culture entails. Because when our children are born, we tell them that to look like you are advanced, you have to speak very good English. To look like you are advanced, you have to embrace dressing this way and that way, so that you look like you are catching up with the world. Not knowing whatever you do culturally could be your advancement. So this is the message we want to drive. It is not wrong to embrace cultures of different people. But when you embrace and forget yours, then now that is the problem. When you say, no, mine, you can imagine a guest visits your family and you throw away your clothes and shoes and adopt his shoes and burn your house and tell him, can you show me how to construct like yours? And this means that you are not appreciative of who you are. And the greatest tragedy is that if you do not know who you are who everybody tells you are. And if you don't know where you are coming from, chances of getting lost are very high. In fact, you are lost. And any way that you are shown, you will follow that way. And when you arrive, you will not know whether you have arrived. So you are just one confused fellow, because one, you don't know your culture, so you don't know who you are. And you don't know your culture, you don't know where you are coming from. You don't know your culture, you don't know where you are headed to. Because culture tells you, you need to aspire to move from point A to point B to point C, so that you feel you are fulfilled as a human being. Because our religion, the traditional religion of the Kamba people, knew that you have to be born, you have to grow, you have to marry, you have to die. And if you are very good, you become an ancestor to fight for the people who are still alive. So the aspiration was to become an ancestor who is powerful. And so for that, then we find we have a serious job ahead of us. There is so much that needs to be done. There is so much that we need to do. But because the journey has begun, we hope in our lifetime and those who will come behind us will still continue with the struggle. And as Kiraga says, it is damn expensive. It requires a lot of resources. It requires a very hard heart. It requires the will, the zest. It requires a lot of people coming together. But we are happy, because for the first time when we saw Africa digital heritage, wanting to preserve our heritage, I think you are the first people that we saw. Because personally, I used to work for an NGO and I used to be in the department of writing proposals. I can tell you I've written over 500 proposals. Nothing. So I gave up and said, let me do it by myself, because I reasoned, if those guys who are donating still work for money and they donate, let me work for my own money and donate it to this cause for the Kamba people. Because I reasoned, my grandfather gave land to build a school and he was paid nothing. I said, then let me do this for people I may not need to be paid. And then, of course, I started doing it. And along the way, when we started, we have a campsite, we have a museum, we have a restaurant, we are selling the traditional wine. The little money that comes, we pump again into the museum. And we are doing well. We are continuing, and we hope at that pace. It may be a snail pace, but we will get there. But along the way, because the world is also changing, then we will get people interested who can come on together and say, now let us do what has not been done in issues of preserving, disseminating, and promoting culture. I see that time coming soon. It's a dream, but I can see there will be light at the end of the tunnel. I see, because I've seen Christians now are embracing. I will not say they are Christians, but I think they are just fanatics who have not even studied theology properly. Because you can even be a better Christian if you are better culturally. I think they need also to know that. So unless I've left something which I can answer, please, that is it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was a very rich answer, and I'm really grateful. I think a lot of what you said, even echoing what Stan had said before about how and like we may have answers to certain questions that we have may reside within our cultures. I think that is something that's a very pertinent message. And I think also what you said, what you talked about having the will and the zest and the persistence is something that I would also like for you, Mr. Stan Kiraga, to speak on, because your work also within the organization revolves around advocacy. And so I would also love to hear from you what persistence has looked like in the face of like the different challenges that you have come across. Yeah, and how you've been able to stay the course, and build and move sustainably as you've been doing your work.
Thank you very much. I think this journey has been very long, and I still hope that sooner or later we'll be able to arrive where we intended to arrive, because we have a map. We know now where we're going. Persistence, resilience, I think it is the only way to move forward in this work, since there isn't, like Mr. Mutuku is saying, there's not much donor money pouring on this scope, especially here in Africa. I know in Europe and America and Asia, they have large budgets where, because they know the importance of culture. For us, the biggest problem is that those people who are supposed to lead this renaissance, I'll call it so, there are people who are on the other side. If I'm saying the other side, I mean the same people who fought to bring us to our knees culturally. They're the same people who recruited our so-called leaders today to lead the country. And they either ignorantly or knowingly, they decided that the backbone is not going to be part of their work. They are going to work on the flesh and the skin. And that has led us to where we are right now. When we started, we depended solely on our pockets, and especially my cousin, who had bigger pockets than mine. So we depended heavily on him. And then we started engaging the local government and the national museums, of whom they have been they have given very little support. But for them, in fact, most of our leadership thought, if you're coming up and mobilizing a lot of people together in a movement, it means you want to be an opposition to them. And so they have to make sure that you are nipped in the bud before you actually flower. And so that had been the war. We've been like in war with the so-called leaders who are supposed to be leading our way, because they are busy talking about development. But as we know, development is a movement. It's not something that just occurs. It is a movement you develop from somewhere. If you are developing a house, then you need the foundation. If the foundation is solid enough, then it can take so much weight of the house. And in cultural matters, our indigenous culture that was formed and developed by our forefathers forms the bedrock should form the bedrock of our development agendas, because they had policies, they had systems that were working. Like what I learned in school was very minimal. And to some extent, it was leading us astray, since we thought that Africa is backward. Africa did not contribute anything in mathematics or science or astronomy, or I mean, it had nothing to offer. Yet later on, I learned otherwise. I learned that the world wouldn't be where it is today if it was not for the African Foundation. The Mesopotamia and the ancient Egypt was not done by any other race or color. It was the Black African. And I really thank my teachers, because I grew up now to be taught by other teachers who taught so long time ago, like Sheikh Anto Diop, Professor Benga, Ivan Fansatma, Dr. Henry Clark. These are renowned scholars who have written, researched, and written extensively about Africa and its place in the world. I now know that we contributed in so many spheres, yet most of us thought we did not contribute anything, and that we have to we have to copy paste from others. And that is the anger that I grew up with. So in essence, when we started collecting. We also started we started revitalizing cultural music, poetry, the language. These are things that we started, and then we went to other avenues. And documentation has been a big problem, but it is the part that we undertook the most. It is also the part that, because whatever we got, whatever, after researching, whatever we collected, we made sure that we showcase it to the people. We bring it live to the people. We revitalize maybe a traditional genre of music that was obsolete. We bring it back. And in 2004, we started a cultural festival called Mekatili Menza Cultural Festival. And this was has been our forum to showcase what we have collected over the time. Also, the different forums that we go, we try as much as possible to showcase what we have, and also to show that we have these are the challenges that we are suffering, but this is the milestones that we have achieved. I thank God, because every other time it comes with its own blessings. And recently we embarked on a big documentation project that is going to document a lot of the traditional genres of music, most of them that had never been recorded before, some of them that had almost died. And this is one of the steps. At the same time, we have worked tirelessly to reinstall the governance system, because the colonial government came and put on its own system on top of the indigenous one. And the idea was to kill it. But resilience has made it that we still have some of it being practiced. They did us a big gravely harm, like collecting more than 200 religious leaders, killing them and piling them, slaughtering some sheep, and then putting firewood on it and burning them. The idea was to kill the indigenous religion. Unfortunately, that did not happen. That did not happen. So we have now started to put the systems back. The indigenous religion, the religious aspects of the religion is coming up very well. We didn't have, for example, Gohu new members for a long time, but we started making sure that new members are being initiated every other year, and now we have a lot of them now. We are moving on to other institutions because they are important. A religion of our people was the bedrock, was the foundation of our constitution, because Giriama is justice, it is love. And without that, that is what is now lacking in our midst. And so I would say that resilience has been everything. We could have been dead a long time ago, and yet every other time we come up with new things. We preserve what we have collected. We revitalize. We make sure that new generations are taking up, and yes, through African digital heritage, we have achieved also in a very short time many tangible things. For example, during the first workshop that we attended, one of the presenters, who is the director of culture in Makueni, in the area of Mr. Mutuku, talked about culture. Where should culture be centered in the county government? And you see, in our county government and many county governments, culture has been lumped together with social services, sports, don't know what. But like I know here in Kilifi, we say we depend on tourism. That is our main trade. If tourism is the main trade and then the Department of Trade is somewhere else, the Department of Tourism is somewhere else, and then the Department of Culture, which tourism is a hospitality industry. And being a hospitality industry means hospitality is a cultural virtue, is a cultural value. And these things cannot exist separately. They have to exist together to help each other so that they can empower the other areas that we have recently achieved. And I wouldn't have pushed that much if it weren't for African digital heritage. At the same time, we talked about strategic partnerships, and we still haven't gotten any grant for our work. But through these strategic partnerships, we now have managed, I think the project we just started is going to cost more than 10 million, and we wouldn't have reached or gotten that if it weren't for our strategic partners. And that we learned from you guys. So I think African Digital Heritage is doing a tremendous work in keeping our culture alive. We are hoping that our partnership will open more doors so that we can be able to achieve our objectives sooner than later. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing and for your warm words as well. I think for us, when we also visited both you and Julius in Makueni and in Malindi, I think we also learned so much from you about also what it means to tangibly do the work and also be so deeply rooted within your communities. And so also we are so fortunate to learn from the both of you about how to go about this work. I think as we are nearing the end of our conversation, I'd like to invite those of you who are joining us to also share any questions you may have, and we'd love to pose them to both Stan and Julius. But as for my final question, I would love to hear from the both of you what you think the role of digitization is within your work, and what incorporating digitization has looked like for the both of you. So yeah, Mr. Mutuku, yes, we can go first.
Digitalization, if you don't change, then of course you will be changed. And the story is told of the hawk and the reed, where they both grew on the banks of a river. And as they continued growing, there was a strong wind that came. And the reed told the hawk that we need to bend so that this thing does not destroy us. But the hawk said, I'm very strong, I cannot. So he didn't, and he was destroyed. And I'm saying those who do not move, because information technology is a revolution. And for us who are running these things like museums and all that, if you do not digitize, chances are somebody will be next door and they will not know you exist. And so for that, digitization is very important. Of course, we know it requires resources. I must appreciate Africa Digital Heritage when they came here to train us on how to take 3D images. And it was a field day as we saw how it can be done. And I used those images on many of my social media handles. And I'm also trying to buy packages where I can do many of the artifacts in the museum, so that by the time one gets here, then they have an idea what we have in the museum. So digitization is very important. And I look at Western museums and envy them. Like last week, I was taking a tour of the Vatican museums. Of course, with the death of the Pope, I was trying to see what is there. And I took a virtual tour, and at one point, I felt like I was walking in the corridors of those museums, and I really felt good. And I said, I anticipate and I look forward to one day for the Akamba Museum that I have here, because I already have the artifacts, that people can experience the same through digitization. So digitization is going to take a center role. It is going to be very, very, very important to how we respond to the challenges and to how we present the culture, our culture, and the cultures of different people to the world. And I think you came at the right time. Not that we are blowing your trumpet, but it is true, because nobody has stood with the Akamba Cultural Center. I think it's only one organization from the US that when we were beginning, they gave us $1,000, and that was it. The rest has been personal initiative and a few friends who feel touched. They say, no, I will buy you 10 bags of cement that way. But the good thing is, I will not give up. I will never give up, no matter what. With donors or no donors or nothing, mine is a calling for preserving the culture of the Kamba people to present it to the world. And so There's no fear about it. It is going to be done. And I must say that I just want God to bless African Digital Heritage for giving us the opportunity. I remember the first training in Nairobi. We came burning, and this is where we learned how to do fundraising, how to partner ourselves, how to market, how to do all sorts of things. And we have used those skills seriously. And I can tell you, from that day is when I formed the Akamba Cultural Dance Troupe. This troupe has been hired by many, many organizations, by many people, by universities, and it has brought in resources which we have used to further our idea. So that means we can still fundraise through commercialization of culture so that we can preserve the rest. And so I must say that for us and for me in Akamba Cultural Center, I may not be bent on resources, but if ideas come, if support comes, then that is the best. Because anything built with an idea is better than that is built with resources. And our people told us that. If you are given, we all know that if you are given a fish, you will eat, and tomorrow you'll be hungry. But if a guy tells you this is the side of the river where the fish are, then you are sorted for life. And so for that, this is where we are, and we look forward to this year. We are planning many things. Some of them will happen, others will not happen. But we keep on looking ahead because we are not where we were when we began. In fact, we are very far. We are very far, and for that, we thank God. And Africa Digital Heritage, we hope the relationship will continue to full marriage. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Like I said, I think the feelings of a deep regard go both ways, because I think while we were also at the Akamba Cultural Center and Museum, we learned so much. Firstly, I enjoyed the Kalovo. If anyone has not tried Kalovo, the Akamba traditional wine that Julius was talking about, you must try it. It is so good. And I think we also so deeply learned from the ways in which you are going about preserving also the intangible heritage, like the plants, traditional plant medicines. And so I think for us, the exchange goes both ways. And so we're deeply grateful. So Mr. Kiraga, Mr. Kiraga, I would love to hear what you think the role and place of digitization is within the work that you do, and then we'll go to the questions that have been already asked.
Yeah, for me, I think digitization is central to preservation and also revitalizing, and also mobilizing more people to appreciate what you're doing, and there are those who will appreciate their culture through the actions that we undertake. But there are those who will appreciate a different culture from theirs, learning, because culture is informing each other. And in the world stage, it means when the culture is present. And why is culture present? It's designs, or it is ways to solve some problems. That has always been the role of culture. If people are doing something this way, it means it has been proven that in doing it this way, it helps alleviate some problems. It brings solutions, and there are very many problems at the moment in this world, both health-wise, socially, economically. There are so many problems, and they keep on multiplying. Yet, in these libraries, the cultures, because a culture is like a different system, a different library with different systems. Maybe, and it's not even maybe, most of those problems can are having solutions there. It's only unfortunate that we have not turned to look back at what our forefathers went through. And our forefathers had networking also. The Michikendas had a very strong networking relations with the Kambas and other communities, and they learned from each other. And in this way, the world becomes better. So I think digitization, the world didn't arrive at the digital age by mistake. It arrived because it was time to arrive there. And I think every community in the world contributed for us to reach at that level. So it is now upon us to use digitization as a tool to promote our objectives, to make sure that our culture survives for eternity, for the generations to come, to be able to turn back and have a place where they can turn from. I mean, if we were not misdirected, because the idea that the Africans and the South didn't have, don't write or didn't keep records. It's strange for me, since I know for sure now that the first schools existed in Africa and the writing started in Africa. How come that majority of Africans didn't write or keep records after a while? So this is the time now to turn back, utilize the resources the world is offering, whether it's in science and technology, whether it's in sociology or other humanities. I mean, to be able to continue to make sure that no community fades, or the memory of our community fades. When children don't talk the language anymore, then in a few years, it means that language will be obsolete. And that is what we are preventing now. And digitization is central because it reaches the generations that are here, the young generations, and it reaches the other civilizations of other communities are far away from us. So it puts us together. And I can say it is digitization that brought MADCA and ADH together. So I'm grateful, and I see digitization as the future of preservation and continuation of our cultural work.
Thank you so much for your response, and I think we can go straight into the Q&A. I think how we'll do this is there'll be one question for you, Mr. Mutuku, and another question for you, Mr. Kiraga. So I think, Mr. Mutuku, there's a question surrounding your initial encounter with the artifacts, the Akamba artifacts in the Swedish Museum, and the wonderful person who has joined us would like to know whether what your thoughts are about the representation of those artifacts being in Sweden, especially considering how a lot of cultural heritage artifacts from Africa were stolen during colonial times. So what your thoughts were in regards to seeing those artifacts in the Swedish Museum. And yeah, just also notions of what representation in that aspect looks like. So giving visibility to their absence, and what, if there were any negative effects you thought or perceived because of the artifacts were not in their context and in their communities.
Yeah, I must say, even up to today, it haunts me that those artifacts are still in the Swedish Museum of Ethnography. And when I started, I came back and started researching on how they ended up there. And there was a confession by the collector himself, that is the ethnographer, who collected these things from 1900 to 1925. And in one of his books, he says that whenever they would ask for an artifact and the community refused, they would organize for that artifact to be stolen. He also documents a time when they went to dig up graves so that they can remove some of the things they saw being buried with African chiefs and African elders. So much of these items were actually stolen. And the ones that ended up being given, people did not give maybe willingly. Very few people gave this willingly as gifts. The rest, you were coerced, you were forced, they were stolen. They were stolen, others were stolen from shrines where they were and taken to be exhibited in Sweden by this famous ethnographer. He was Lidbom. This is the guy who collected many of these things. And I must say my feeling, even up to today, is that these items need to come back to their rightful place, because we associate our items with ancestors. And it's like having our ancestors taken to foreign lands. And these ancestors keep on crying, saying, "You have let me out in the cold. You have taken me to a land that I do not belong to." So my feeling is a feeling of disgust, is a feeling of shame that our things are there and nothing we can do about it. And that day, the guy who was guiding in the museum was also not very friendly, he was very rough, because he said, "Look at these things, and because you will never see them again, because the guys who made them became Christian fanatics and they no longer make them, but they are important artifacts." And everybody was looking at me like I am from another planet, because they knew when he says they are from Africa, the only guy from Africa in that group was me. So they were looking at me as if I'm made of wood, and I didn't like it. And up to today, in fact, I was planning this year to go back to that museum and present a petition. But you see, it involves many things, but I will not say I'm happy. I will say that I will be happy when these things are repatriated, because these things were stolen. And I have paragraphs detailing how these guys robbed and raided graves to steal things. And so for that, we cannot say that they are in their rightful place, and we must want them back if possible. It's a long process, but it can happen, because why desecrate the culture of another person? We all know as Kenyans the story of the Vigango and how the people from the coast, and I believe MADCA was also involved, how they fought brilliantly to have those things brought back to the country. I think some of them came, but still many are out there, held in foreign museums and all that. So that's my take. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, yeah, it's quite a heavy, yeah, this work of culture and heritage also tends to come with a lot of heaviness. And I think also someone has written something along the lines of also what it means to exercise protection when doing this work and making sure that, you know, further exploitation or extraction doesn't come. And so I think I would love for Mr. Stan to speak to this question alongside another one that was also asked. And also, if you could keep your answers short and sweet because time is going, that would be great. So, Mr. Stan, if you could answer the question of what it means to pull like-minded people towards helping you preserve culture, what that has looked like for you, that would be great. And if you could also answer, yeah, what it means to protect yourselves and your community while doing this work and while sharing knowledge, that would be great. And I kindly ask as well to keep the answers short and sweet because of time.
Well, I know I tend to be expansive. Well, I think it is very challenging to protect. It is still a challenge to protect what we preserve and what we bring out. But through strategic partnerships, we have learned, like we've learned copywriting and trademarks and all that, which we are exploiting. At the same time, there are other avenues of protecting our work. Like right now, while we are undergoing this digitization of cultural music, we are also trying to protect them as we move, because over the years we have been heavily exploited. We've been exploited to the point that we thought we'll never give our story anymore, because many people, and we still have problems with the researchers, with the media. The idea is that they're helping you bring out your ideas out, but what I haven't liked, what we don't like many times, is that something that you have researched for so long, someone comes, get it, and it no longer becomes yours. Get it in just 1 hour sitting like this, and then it is gone. And it is someone's idea. It is so we're still thinking of ways of how best we can protect ourselves. It is still a challenge, like the story of the Vigango, which I was involved from the beginning when we were trying to push for their repatriation. Now we got like-minded people in the US, in Europe, who are fighting with us to make sure that we get the Vigangos to be brought back. But when they come back, now we get our new colonialists who do not appreciate that culture, do not appreciate that it is like a Kigango is a faith-based article, and the religious or the indigenous spirituality that hosts the Vigango is still alive. But those people who are involved with the Vigango, who know more about the Vigango, are not even asked what to do with. So for years now, I think for almost 5 years, Vigango are being held at Fort Jesus in Mombasa and others, and they came back to Kenya, but they have not reached their final destination. They are being housed there, like they don't know what to do with them. And it is for us, it's a work of over 10 years pushing for their repatriation. So it's still a big challenge.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that answer and for sharing so honestly about what that process of working together with Community One has looked like, but also what it means to protect your community while working with them. I think on that note, I think this conversation could go on and on in the best way possible. I think because both of our speakers are so have such a deep and vast experience doing this work, and we are beyond grateful. Thank you so much to you, Mr. Mutuku, and to you, Mr. Kiraga, for speaking with us,
Thank
for
you.
sharing so honestly and openly and expansively about the work that it is that you're doing. We at African Digital Heritage are always learning from you. I think we're deeply inspired by the work that you do, how you go about it, the persistence, the resilience. It really is a beacon for us. And so we are beyond grateful. I think, yes, we are at the end of our conversation, but if people wanted to find out more about the Akamba Cultural Center and Museum, and Malindi and MADCA, where can they find you? Where can they follow along for your work? Yes, we can start with you, Mr. Mutuku. Any social media handles, websites? Yeah, let us.
Oh, yes, thank you. We are in YouTube, we are in Facebook, we are in Twitter, we are in Instagram, and all of them, the names are Akamba Cultural Center and Museum. Physically, we are to be found in Makueni County. We are about 127 kilometers from the city of Nairobi. In case one wants contacts, then I will post them here in the chat, our contacts, so that if you want to ask more, then you can ask. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And for you, Mr. Kiraga, if people wanted to find out more and connect with you around the work that you're doing at the Malindi District Cultural Association, where can they find you? Yeah.
We are also we are on YouTube, we are Instagram, we are on Twitter. Our website is still being developed, but you can still find it. It's MADCA Malindi. Well, physically, we are found in Kilifi County, in Malindi or Magarini, at a center called Moi Sabaki. I would also want to give a shout out to one of my friends in the audience, Mr. Eric Mainema, whom we have also worked together, producing a book. He had written about us, and I see him in the audience. I'd like to give a shout out to him. And thank you, Africa Digital Heritage, for giving us this opportunity to be able to discuss and share our experiences and our aspirations. And finally, I'd like to invite each and every one of you to our annual Mekatilili Wamenza Cultural Festival, which will start on the 13th of August to the 17th of August in Malindi. And it's going to be, hopefully it's going to be also life-changing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who has been with us in this conversation. We deeply appreciate you taking the time to engage with us. And yeah, we are deeply grateful. As I stated at the beginning of this conversation, our talk today and even our guests, how we met them was through our ongoing Skills for Culture program, which seeks to increase visibility, ownership, accessibility, inclusivity, and transmission of cultural heritage. So for more information surrounding this entire project, which includes incredible resources such as a free toolkit for cultural practitioners and master classes touching on areas such as fundraising, intellectual property, and strategic partnerships, feel free to head to our website, which has been shared in the chat section. And you should be able to access all of these resources as well as find out more about the Skills for Culture program as a whole. And so, yes, that's it. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you, thank you, thank you.